And again, he was talking about Ben Bernanke, the Fed chair, not typically a political target, but he's standing behind his remarks now in a national interview. But former White House senior political advisor Karl Rove saying on Fox News that comments like that are not helpful. Take a listen.
Accused the chairman of the Federal Reserve of being a traitor to his country, of being guilty of treason, and suggesting that we treat him pretty ugly in Texas. You know, that's not, again, a presidential statement. Governor Perry is going to have to fight the impression that he's a cowboy from Texas. This simply added to it by accusing somebody of being guilty of being a traitor to his country.
So here now with context and perspective is Roll Call staff writer David Drucker. Good to see you, David. And I imagine for the Perry rollout, the first few days, these are not the kinds of headlines that his advisors are hoping to generate.
Well, probably not. I think that there's nothing wrong with the governor's aggressiveness and willingness to take on the issue of the Fed and its policies of printing money and how much, you know, and its monetary policy and how much liquidity you inject into the market. I think that from a political standpoint, the best thing the governor could do would be continue to put the focus on the president's policies, on this administration's policies, and leave out anything that strikes as personal. I think when you get personal, there's a chance that in a general election, if he can get there, it could turn off independent voters, swing voters, and soft Democrats who might want to vote for a Republican given the current economic climate.
This sort of Texas swagger that is appealing to a lot of people out there, and we could take a look at the latest the Rasmussen poll that has come out that is showing just how popular the governor is. Having just gotten in the race, he is already at 29%, considerably higher than his opponents for the GOP nomination. But there's a headline in the Washington Post today: Is Perry built for a general election? Is he?
Well, we're going to find out. He's only run for office in Texas. He's done it a lot. And I think there's something interesting to understand here. There's nothing wrong, in my view, with the Texas swagger, with being aggressive, with going after the president's policies full steam ahead and not tiptoeing around the issue of unemployment and economic growth and whatever the Federal Reserve is doing, because it does register to a degree, especially with the Republican primary electorate. I think what the governor has to understand, and I think he probably does, is that he is now a national candidate for office trying to represent all states in the union, not just Texas, which has, like every state, its own political peculiarities. And so I think what's important for him to remember is, if he's got the long ball in mind, that once he gets past the Republican primary, if he does, he's going to have to pivot a little bit to the center. And I think that if you look at his opening message and the motto that his campaign has adopted, Get America Working Again, he has the right idea in mind. And if you look at his history as governor, he has run campaign ads that focus on investment in education, investment in health care, and other bread and butter issues. I don't think it is beyond his talent to do that, but he's going to have to stay focused. And I think 6, 7, 8 months from now, if this is, you know, one of the few mistakes he has made like this, it won't matter, we won't remember it. It's only if it's a trend and it continues that it potentially becomes a problem.
But isn't he going to have to stay true to who he is, David? I mean, authenticity, you know, is an attribute that I think voters from both parties are looking for when choosing a presidential candidate. They want to see somebody who is true to himself. So if he does pivot, perhaps not politically, but style-wise, could that be a problem for him potentially if he tries to tone it down too much?
Rick, it's a good point, but that's why I said, in my view, the Texas swagger, the aggressiveness is fine. The conservatism, philosophically, is fine. What you want to do is stay away from personal attacks, because it takes away your opponent's ability to paint you as extreme or mean, and these are the kind of things that matter to independents, people not associated with a party. And I think it's just important for the governor to channel his conservative philosophy and his conservative message in a way that will appeal to a national electorate, which is why I think that the theme he came out with Saturday in his speech in South Carolina and is pursuing, which is Get America Working Again, look, nobody's going to argue with that. So stay who you are, but just be a little bit more choosy with how you express who you are.
Bottom line, though, we heard from Karl Rove in the introduction, and there have been other voices from the right who just don't seem to be entirely convinced that the field as it is right now is the right field. I mean, what are you hearing there? A couple seconds left, David. Are we going to see some other people like a Paul Ryan or a Chris Christie jump in this thing?
Look, Steve Hayes had a great story on Paul Ryan's new consideration of the presidential race. My reporting says that he's not going to get in. I don't think Chris Christie's going to get in. I think the field is probably set in terms of front runners, but we've got a long way to go and a lot could happen. So we can't decide right now how this thing's going to look next spring.
David Drucker from Roll Call. Good to talk to you, David. Thanks so much.
Thank you.